Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling completely drained emotionally, physically, maybe even spiritually? Like you just survived something, only to replay it over and over in your head, wondering why you keep tolerating it. If you've ever felt undervalued, disrespected, or just downright exhausted after spending time with someone, it might be time to ask yourself, is this relationship even worth it? Think of your life as a garden, something you nurture, care for and pour your energy into so it can thrive. But then, weeds start creeping in, slowly spreading and stealing the nutrients your flowers need to bloom. Sound familiar? Maybe there's someone in your life who's always taking and never giving back. Don't let your garden, the life you've worked so hard to cultivate, become barren because of the wrong people. In this video, we're cutting through the noise. Here are 7 clear signs it's time to let go. Yes, it might hurt, but your peace is worth far more. Ready to reclaim your energy and happiness? Let's get into it. Sign 1. Your guilt trip for setting boundaries. Have you ever tried to set a boundary to protect your well-being, only to be made to feel like the bad guy? It's frustratingly common, especially with people who put their own needs above your comfort and autonomy. Imagine telling a family member you can't make it to a weekend gathering because you're utterly exhausted after a long week. Instead of understanding, they respond with, "I guess family isn't a priority for you anymore." That one sentence can flip everything on its head, making you feel guilty for prioritizing self-care. But the truth is, people who truly respect you will honor your boundaries. When someone manipulates your guilt to shift the focus onto their feelings, it's not just emotional manipulation, it's a sign that they care more about their desires than your well-being. Stoic philosophy teaches us that no one can harm you without your consent. Feeling guilty for protecting yourself isn't your burden to carry. It's a reflection of their inability to respect the relationship. I remember a former friend who would frequently ask for help with minor tasks, like moving furniture or fixing her computer. One day, after a particularly rough week, I told her I needed a day to rest. Her response: "I guess I'm just not important enough for you." It stung, and for a moment, I almost gave in. But over time, I realized that constantly sacrificing my peace to avoid disappointing others was harming me. As Marcus Aurelius teaches, your worth isn't defined by someone else's comfort. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's a profound act of self-respect. And while clear communication is key, if they still try to guilt-trip you, that's your cue. The people who truly care will honor your limits. For those who don't, it's time to reconsider their place in your life. Sign 2. They block your personal growth. Do you ever feel like you're climbing a mountain, but someone in your life keeps pulling you down? Maybe every time you share your goals or take a step toward growth, they respond with sarcasm or worse, outright dismissal. Personal growth often makes us more aware of things we once ignored. As you evolve, it becomes painfully obvious when someone is holding you back. I had a friend who was incredibly supportive during tough times, but when I decided to pursue a career change to follow my passion, her reaction was unexpectedly discouraging. She called it unrealistic and told me to stick to what was safe. Her words made me hesitate, and for a while, I doubted my decision. Looking back, I realized her criticism had more to do with her insecurities than my choices. Stoic wisdom reminds us that what doesn't help you grow isn't worth keeping. True friends will cheer you on, even if they don't fully understand your path. But if someone consistently undermines your confidence, it's time to ask yourself whether they're adding value to your life or just holding you back. Remember, their behavior reflects their limitations, not yours. Focus on surrounding yourself with people who celebrate your growth, not those who fear it. Sign 3. Everything is always your fault. Have you noticed that every issue in a relationship somehow gets pinned on you? No matter what happens, you're left carrying the blame even when it's not your fault. This dynamic doesn't just exhaust you, it chips away at your self-esteem. Therapist Sharon Martin explains that people who constantly blame others often lack the self-awareness needed for growth. They expect you to shoulder the responsibility for everything, while they avoid confronting their own mistakes. I once worked with a colleague who had a way of making every problem my fault. Even when a report was delayed because she hadn't done her part, I was criticized for not reminding her earlier. At first, I doubted myself, questioning whether I was truly to blame. But over time, I realized this pattern wasn't about accountability, it was about deflecting responsibility. Stoic philosophy teaches us not to waste energy on things beyond our control. You can't change how others behave, but you can decide how much space you give them in your life. Healthy relationships allow room for accountability and growth on both sides. If you're always made to feel at fault, ask yourself, is this dynamic fair to you? Chances are, it's not. Sign 4. The bad outweighs the good. Are you holding on to a relationship because of a few beautiful moments, even though most of your time together is filled with tension, negativity, or hurt? It's easy to convince yourself that those fleeting moments of happiness are enough to outweigh the pain. But deep down, you know the truth. It's not sustainable. Psychologist Dr. Lindsay Gibson points out that clinging to hope for better times might provide temporary comfort, but true emotional well-being comes from being honest with yourself about how the relationship impacts you. I remember a close friend who had an incredible sense of humor. Whenever we laughed together, it felt like nothing else mattered. But those joyful moments grew fewer and farther apart. Instead, most of our interactions were filled with criticism, dismissiveness, and a lack of emotional support when I needed it most. I kept making excuses, it's just a rough patch, or she's not always like this. But those rough patches became the norm, and I realized the relationship was draining me. Stoic philosophy teaches us to see things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. Marcus Aurelius said, accept reality instead of trying to change it. If the bad consistently outweighs the good, it's time to stop romanticizing what the relationship could be and accept what it is. Letting go doesn't mean denying the good moments, it means putting them in perspective. Ask yourself, do those moments of joy justify the pain you're enduring? If not, the best thing you can do for yourself is to let go. You deserve relationships that bring more peace and fulfillment than heartache. Remember, your inner peace is worth far more than clinging to a relationship that no longer serves you. Sign 5. They only reach out when they need something. Have you ever had a friend or family member who vanishes for months, only to resurface when they need a favor? These one-sided relationships leave you feeling used and undervalued, like you're nothing more than their last resort. I once had a college friend who I thought I'd stay close to after graduation. Initially, she called often, and we shared everything about our lives. But over time, the calls became sporadic. Eventually, every interaction had a motive. One day, after almost a year of silence, she reached out not to reconnect, but to ask if I could help her write a presentation because, in her words, "You're so good at writing." There was no genuine interest in how I'd been or why we hadn't spoken in so long. I realized she didn't value our relationship, she valued what I could do for her. Stoic wisdom reminds us, nothing is more precious than the peace of your soul. Relationships built on convenience, not care, are emotionally draining. Marcus Aurelius advised us to see things as they are. If someone only appears when they need something, it's unlikely that behavior will change. You don't need to cut ties out of spite, but setting boundaries is essential to protect your peace. Genuine relationships are built on mutual care and respect, not on one-sided demands. Remember, you deserve connections where your value as a person, not your usefulness, is what matters. Sign 6. They're an energy vampire. Have you ever left a conversation feeling completely drained? Like someone just dumped all their emotional baggage on you and walked away lighter, while you're left carrying the weight. These are the energy vampires, people who thrive on negativity, constant complaining, or endless drama. I had a coworker like this. At first, I tried to help her find solutions to her work problems. But over time, I realized she wasn't interested in fixing anything. She just wanted someone to vent to. Every interaction left me feeling exhausted, especially when she criticized others or painted herself as the victim. One time, I told her I couldn't listen because I had a pressing deadline, and she accused me of not caring about her. That's when it hit me, this relationship wasn't just draining my time, it was draining my mental energy. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. That wisdom applies to the people you surround yourself with, too. If someone's constant negativity leaves you feeling depleted, it's time to ask whether the relationship is worth maintaining. Setting boundaries or even walking away isn't about being cold, it's about protecting your peace and making room for positive, uplifting connections. Sign 7. All roads lead to nowhere. Have you ever tried everything to fix a relationship, only to find yourself back at square one? You pour your heart into finding solutions, but no matter how hard you try, nothing changes. It's like running on a treadmill, exhausting and ultimately leading nowhere. I once had a close friend who promised to change after every major argument. One time, after a particularly heated fight, she broke down in tears and swore things would be different. I believed her, forgave her, and gave her another chance. But within weeks, she was back to the same hurtful behavior, ignoring my feelings, making dismissive comments, and accusing me of being too sensitive. Over time, I realized her promises weren't about change, they were about keeping me around. Stoic philosophy teaches us, your time is limited. Use it wisely. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we can't control other people's actions, only how we respond. If every effort to fix a relationship leads to the same dead ends, it's a sign that the relationship isn't evolving and it's time to reconsider its place in your life. Walking away doesn't mean giving up. It means respecting yourself enough to stop investing in relationships that don't move forward. Imagine what life could look like if you redirected that energy toward people who uplift and support you. Stoic wisdom teaches us that letting go isn't a failure, it's an act of courage and self-love. If you've recognized someone in your life in these examples, take this as a reminder. You deserve healthier, more uplifting relationships. Share your experiences in the comments below, and let's support each other in finding clarity and peace. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more empowering content. Your journey to inner peace and happiness starts here. See you in the next video.